Well, as it turns out, another D28 came in while I was filming those other two D28s, and this is another one that needs a neck reset. So let's get at it. Set that for 7 minutes. Just heated up that probe on the buffing wheel. So we've got a hot probe and hot glue, bringing us right down to the glue line here. Sometimes it'll take a couple of heating sessions to get that to loosen up. So far so good. A tapered tongue depressor to kind of hold my place here. Just going to warm up that probe again on the buffer. And we'll come in from this side. I should probably reposition the camera, but I'm kind of in the thick of it here. Well, you know something? I'm going to reheat that. You don't want to force anything. After this next heating, we'll be able to slip that glue joint super clean. Another 7 minutes. I've had a couple of students ask, why wouldn't you just do 14 minutes? You don't do 14 minutes. 7 minutes, will heat it up right through the glue line, and if you got to take a second run at 7 minutes, that's it, but no more than 7 minutes. You don't want to see flames erupting from the fingerboard. That'll do it. Okay, let's give that another try. I am going to clean this up right away while the glue is warm. I do not want to disturb the shim that's on there because somebody at some point went through a lot of trouble to get that right. I will trim it flush with the face of the Dovetail. I'll just clean this up and let it dry right out, because I had to use a lot more steam than I would normally use. I have another neck reset I'm doing today as well. You'll see how clean that comes off in comparison to this. should have been trimmed like I'm doing right now, flush with the face of the dovetail. I don't want to disturb the fit because this will alter the fit side to side, and the string alignment was good. We're in the driver's seat now, so get the worst of this glue off, and then we'll let it dry out and get onto that next neck reset. Pretty gummy stuff. I'll be using hide glue when I re-glue it. I do use the aliphatic glue for the fingerboard extension, but this is one of the non-adjustable Martin necks, going back a few years. It's a little further complicated because there's a square metal tubing in there that I need to deal with. Let's get the rest of this gummy stuff off. Well, we're done with this one for now. We're going to let another D28 to get the neck off for today. Well, I'll set that aside now for, I'm going to let this one dry out. Usually I don't need that much steam. Usually it's about 20 seconds aside for the dovetail. So I have a third Martin neck reset. So one more D28 neck reset coming up. Here's our third Martin neck reset. This is Andrew's. Just going to heat up that probe again on the buffer. That's what we want to see. Next, space saver. Release this just a little bit more, and then we'll reheat this the second time. So the idea is you have a little bit of time to kind of work that fingerboard off, but it does start to cool, and that's when we reheat it again for another 7 minutes. That's the magic number. Well, that released beautifully, super clean, right on the glue line. That's the steam we want. "20 seconds aside. Another few seconds. that's it. So I'm making the undercut at the top of the dovetail in between the truss rod and the underside of the fingerboard. I have this long blade and this allows me to make that cut very gently. Now I have a brass shim taped to the underside of the fingerboard because I don't want to score the actual fingerboard while I'm doing this. I'm getting very close now. I just barely want to kiss that leading face. There is my brass shim. Now I actually thin that down to allow me to protect the underside of the fingerboard, but it still had to be thin enough to be able to fit the saw blade in there. Here, let me give you another angle. So this little tiny bit of mahogany you can see how the fingerboard will be allowed to flex. Myself, I've never been one for putting a wedge underneath the fingerboard extension. I don't know, it just didn't look right to me. When we're done this guitar, we'll have the perfect neck angle, the action will be perfect, the intonation will be perfect, and it will essentially look like it's never been touched. And that is the objective. I'm going to take a minute when I pull this off and just explain to all of you latest TechDeck guys that have your GPS units how I adjust the neck support to stop. So I actually have a positive stop here. I'll pull this apart and show you. It'll make more sense if you visually, if you can kind of see rather than trying to explain it. Well, that is the third Martin neck that came off today. And I'm about ready to call it a day. So the reason I'm allowed to kind of flip the neck up like that, and I do that constantly when I'm working on dovetails, this fastener here, I've turned it so that it actually protrudes beyond the surface of the floor of the female rail. So this fastener protruding through the floor of the female rail acts as a positive stop. And that's how I flip the neck upright like that when I'm working on dovetails. Just wanted to show you guys so you understand. Because if you don't have that up, of course, the neck assembly will just slide right off. And that's how I do that job.